ANG 2013. I'm here with Eric Stuart today.
Hey, John. What's going on, man?
Doing good. Yourself?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while since the last time we got a chance to talk to you. That was the summer of 2011. How have you been?
I've been good, except I have a separated right shoulder now. Too many years of playing tennis and lifting gear. Yes. So it's not really that easy to play guitar now, but otherwise I'm good.
So is it mild pain with the guitar, or?
It's changing the guitars. And of course I have a lot of guitars that I like to change, so that's yeah, exactly. Yes.
Says in your bio you worked with J.R. Rain for his audiobooks. What has that been like for you, besides very time consuming?
Well, actually it's pretty cool because J.R. or one of his assistants found me and thought that I would be the right voice for his books. And after reading the first of his books that he gave me, he's like, you know what, I want you to do all of the things that I've done. And it's great because he's an easy guy to work with. I really like his style too. I think it fits my personality. There's definitely a sarcasm to it. He's very humorous as well with the adventure stuff that he's doing, and so not too gory, but gory enough. So it's been great. I've got 2 in the can already, and I'm working on a 3rd book of his right now.
So because of his writing style, it's a very easy transition for you.
Yeah, I mean, I like when I'm working on an audiobook, I must say that a lot of times I'll stumble when I'm reading and I read something that I think it should say, and then I see the way the sentence structures, and I'm like, that's not very conversational, or it's not very organic for me. But JR's style almost seems like my words, so that makes it very easy to read.
Very good.
Yeah.
In our last interview, we talked about you being on the road, opening for several large rock band acts. What is road life like for people who have not experienced it?
You forget what city you're in. You miss your bed. You miss your family. I must say that I like a good hotel. It's usually rare that that's actually the case. But I do like to come to town for something specific like that. Instead of just a vacation where you show up and you look for the tourist sites, it's fun to kind of come to a town where you're quote-unquote a rock star and entertain the crowd. People will say, oh, I live in Portland, and I'll go, the Schnitzer Auditorium, or something like that. Like, I only know them by the venue. They're like, oh, that's a great place. I'm like, yeah, that's all I saw. So it's kind of very random in terms of your memories of these places, but it's got its good side and it's got its bad side. I must say that now my goal is quality over quantity. I don't like to disappear for too long anymore, and getting in a van with the guys would be fun, but it's not my first priority.
Speaking of which, you were quite busy last month, correct?
Yeah, of course, the month that I hurt my shoulder, we had a lot of gigs, which is great, but a lot of shows. I've been playing a lot in Nashville as well. We're trying to just keep our names out there, so it's good. I like to be working, but it would have been nice if I hurt my shoulder when I had 2 gigs, and so I could rest up. Yeah.
Coming out, or has been released, the 7th album for fans to listen to. You also had Peter Frampton contribute on it. How was it working with him on the album?
Well, it's kind of funny because Peter produced my first big record, and one of the reasons I came down to Nashville in the first place. And then I moved to Nashville, and he moved away. And I said, what are you doing? I came down here to be with you, and you moved away. But what was kind of neat was he relocated back into Nashville, and we saw each other. He actually came to one of my shows, which was very nice, and I told him I was finishing up a new album, and he said, did you leave me? He said, you'll have to remember to leave me a track open for a solo next time. And I said, huh. So I went back home, and I started to write a song, and I said, I sent him an email. I said, hey, funny enough, you should ask me about leaving one track open, because I actually have one more song. And he's like, great. So I sent it to him, and he played a solo on it. And what was really neat was I went to his place to hear back what he had done. Normally, guys will come over to my place or whatever, but for this one, he had a special setup that he wanted to show me, and he had the smallest amp in the world in his little utility room with a microphone in front of it, and I mean, the amp was probably only about this big, and he's like, I played through this, and I was like, that just goes to show you it's not necessarily the size of the equipment, it's the fingers of the player. And so it was such a great tone, but it was also this, everybody's got this big stuff, and it's the little amp, so it was great.
My mother-in-law is a huge Peter Frampton fan. Do you have any other good stories about Peter on the road or otherwise?
Well, here's a little tidbit. Because I do a lot of voiceover work and also some coaching, I just finished producing Peter's voiceover demo. So now Peter is, and I got him signed with my agent. So now he's going to be doing some voiceover work as well. And he's not as only good at really at reading this stuff, but he's exceptionally fun. He's a very funny guy. Great sense of humor, almost very Monty Python-esque. So hopefully you'll hear him. Besides spots where it's like I'm Peter Frampton 4. I want to get him into stuff where he's just reading the copy and people go, that guy sounds very familiar. Who is that? And then you do the research and find out it's him.
Who knows, more anime voiceover roles. He might be at a convention near us.
But if your mother-in-law is a huge fan, he's about to start a tour of, I think it's called like Frampton's Guitar Circus, and he takes a couple of nights out with guitar heroes. So like he's doing like 5 dates with Robert Cray, and then he's going out with B.B. King, and he'll be coming to Nashville to play the Ryman with Robert Cray, so that's kind of neat.
Okay, very cool. What challenges did you encounter when working on this last CD and through the Kickstarter program?
Well, this, as you said, this is being a Kickstarter thing. We were thinking, okay, we've been supporting our own albums for a long time. If you're an independent musician, you know that you're not really making a lot of money on your sales. You just want to get your music out there. So we sort of said, let's do the Kickstarter thing. And the majority of the fans that stepped up for it were anime fans, which was really very flattering to know that because they obviously grew up listening to me, they believe in what I did as a voice actor, that they would support my other dream and my other passion, which is music. So the thing that was interesting was, I must say this, when we started it, a couple of people were like, oh, I don't know if I want to donate money to, stuff like that. And not necessarily the fans, but other people I knew. And then I saw that they launched Kickstarter things after ours were successful. And I'm like, yeah. But I will say that the pressure is on. This new album, you always hope you get better with age. This is definitely going to be our best record. The material on it is definitely the best we've done. And you feel the pressure because it's been supported by fans. It better be that good because they are all stockholders. So that was the most difficult thing, was to stop tweaking and just let the paint be dry, because you really kept thinking, is this as good as it can be? Because it's no longer just, I'll put it out there and see if it sells. They've pre-purchased it already. It better be good.
So did you go over each track like, is this really what I want to do with this track and this track and the next track? Yeah,
and we started with a 10-song album, which became a 12-song album because I wanted to add the song for Frampton, and I had written something else. I think at the end of the day now, it's a 14-song album, and I have to stop. Because you write another great song, you go like, this is a great song, and if I start playing this live and the fans go, well, is that on the new record? And you go, no. You're like, well, that should be on the new record if it's one of their favorites. But now we're done.
Okay, so 14.
Yes.
Okay. What is it like to be a part of the Slayers universe, knowing that this series has been around for over 17 years now?
I can't believe that. I mean, that's how crazy that 17 is scary, because that was the first series I had a recurring role on. And I love when people come up to ask me to sign Slayers stuff, because it was a fun project to work on. I love the guys that I worked on, the director and the engineer. We had a blast doing it. A lot of the scripts were not written on time, so we did a lot of ad-libbing too. So there's a lot of definitely personal touches to that. And we just did the reunion. We all got together and dubbed the last installment. It's pretty neat.
Was that your first major role in anime, or did Pokemon come afterwards?
No, this was first, which is why Gowry sounds a lot like Brock, because that was the voice that I chose for Gowry, and then when Brock came along, it was like that's kind of what they wanted. But yeah, Gowry was my first major role.
Okay. You used to live in New York, and now you live in Nashville, Vegas. How has life changed from living in a huge city to a large Midwest city?
The biggest difference between the two cities for me is I now live in a driving community where we had one car that we moved from one side of the street to the other for alternate side parking in New York. Now we have 3 cars and we all drive everywhere. So that's a big difference. But the other thing is, in New York, there's so many people all the time that during the day you're surrounded by all of that, getting in the subways, all of that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, you come home and you just want to decompress and be alone. The opposite is true for me in Nashville. I spend so much time alone working at home, or we're so spread out that when you do see people, you engage them because that's what you're missing during the day. So it's a complete opposite, which is, I think it has a lot to do with why people are so friendly.
Okay, gotcha.
Because they're not bombarded and sensory overload all day long.
People everywhere.
Yeah, they're like, I've been by myself, or I work in a small office, and then you go to the supermarket and you talk to people. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a huge difference.
Okay. Now what we want to talk about, football.
Right.
Who will be the starting quarterback for the Jets week 1?
You know, I have this crazy theory that we're going to make some crazy trades soon. I think that something, you know, because we haven't done anything. All right, we're just waiting. We got the Revis thing hanging over our heads. Who knows? Maybe they don't give Aaron Rodgers a new deal. Right. No, you know what? I'm not holding a lot of faith. I was hoping for Flynn. I was hoping for Smith in the beginning. Yeah, exactly. And then we just lost Kolb, Cobb to the Cardinals, right? Who's left?
Not many. Rodgers doesn't get that deal done.
I don't know. Let's see. What we just signed. What's his name? Yeah, I like Gerard.
Yeah, I do too. I think that'll be the week 1 starter.
I think he will beat Sanchez out in preseason. Yes, as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I wanted him a couple of years ago. I thought he was great. Yeah.
If he stays healthy, he can get another 2-3 years out of it.
And Tebow will be a motivational speaker.
What has to happen for Tim Tebow to start a Jets game?
He's not going to start a Jets game, and I don't know what they're waiting for to get rid of him. I mean, the Arena Football offered him a deal, right? He's obviously got a very strong following, as a speaker. To go do that, maybe do some, slice of life sports casting. He can do emotional stories about, whatever. But he shouldn't be playing football. But I'll tell you what will happen. He'll get cut, and Bill Belichick will sign him.
I can see that. Probably play him at fullback or tight end or something like that.
Just to drive the Jets crazy.
That's the only sole reason.
But I will go on record as saying he will be a Patriot.
And Darrelle Revis, so is he going to be a Jet?
I think it's time for him to go. And I love him, but he's also not a team player in terms of his deal. His contract, and you see what Tanny's doing now being a sports agent, which makes complete sense because he helps them out. He needs to go. That money needs to be cleared, and our defense did not suffer.
No, it didn't.
Cromartie played great. What did suffer was our offense. Take that money and put it towards rebuilding the offense. And we lost a lot of players, But I think it's time. I think it's time he goes. Or he restructures his contract and says, I want to be a Jet. It's not going to happen.
Because Revis, to me, is as potentially the best cornerback in football. But yeah, as a Jets fan, you probably have to I don't want this hassle anymore.
Yeah, he turned me off on the way that he his holdouts, both of them. The first one, then he got hurt, and he got hurt because he held out and he wasn't practicing. I think it's time, that he goes, and Tampa Bay could use him, and we could take some trades. We'll take some draft picks or whatever. Yeah.
All right. Back on topic. Any other upcoming projects you could talk about this time?
Last time I don't know if we spoke about the name of the project I directed last time. It might have still been top secret, but there was a movie called The Illusionauts, which was originally done in Spanish by a Peruvian company, which does a lot of animation that I work with. We dubbed it in English, and it did very well overseas in English-speaking countries. It just got picked up by a distribution company here in New York, in America, and they want us to redo it and make it a little bit more American-friendly. The storyline is a little European. So we're re-editing, we're redoing this whole thing, and that will be coming out, and I'll have to direct that again. We're changing it. We're not starting from scratch. And then there's a couple of other projects. I'm working on a lot of original things, original animation. There's
another one you're directing too, right?
Yeah, I can't talk about that big. There's a big movie that we're working on right now that's in the works. And if that comes together, that would be fantastic. And a couple of series that we're pitching as well. Once again, if those come together. But it's fun to work on completely original ideas. And also record the voices first, send them to a great animation company, and see those characters come to life rather than matching lip flap, which is what I do so much of. And directing and producing. I build the shows as well. So that's very satisfying.
Is that more freedom for you as a director when you don't have to match lip flaps?
And as an actor, but both. It's kind of like being the cook, and I'll say I'll add this, and knowing what the recipe is going to end up being. When you're the actors, sometimes you do stuff and you don't even know if they're going to use what you think is the best line if you're not in charge of the final product. So it's very satisfying. Yep.
Any way for fans to keep up with you on the internet, and a final message for your fans?
Well, I have a Facebook page for the Eric Stuart Band. I've got a personal Eric Stuart page. There's a new site, ourstage.com. It's got all my music on it, and you can create a radio station of just all my music and listen to it. What's neat is they pay us per play. They don't charge you, but they pay for play. There's contests too that you can enter our songs in if you think it's you know what, Eric's the coolest rock guy, let me enter that song. We just won for best male singer-songwriter. I won the award for February. I won the first prize for that based on a fan submission, which is really neat.
Is that more satisfying when the fans vote and it comes in first like that?
Yeah, and it's always surprising to me because you write material. I've got so many songs recorded, and I probably have about 300 written, and you keep moving ahead, and sometimes you forget about some of the better songs that you have that are older ones. And so I went back into, as I'm uploading these songs to the site, there's a ballad, there's a really pretty song called A Boy in Love with You, which is actually string quartet, piano, and me. That's it. So it's very not rock and roll, but very pretty song. Well, even today, someone said, I want the CD that has A Boy in Love with You on it, because they found it on the site, and it's like, okay, so I brought that song back into my set, where now I play it solo acoustic. Even when we're rocking with the band, I'll stop and give them give that song, play a song, and because it's such a strong song, it becomes a fan favorite. So it's neat to get the feedback, because you don't always get the feedback. It's one thing to buy my record. It's another thing to specifically tell me, this is my favorite song, or this is my, or I really love these two songs, and then we go, well, let's bring that back to the set. Yeah.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the convention.
Thanks, John. Always a pleasure to be interviewed by you, and hope you enjoy it as well. Okay, thanks. Yep.